Hey, what's up, universe? It's 1:12 p.m. On Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. I just got done talking to the gentleman at Gray Space. He was very supportive, very understanding. And it was really cool. He's like, I totally get it. He's like, sometimes those leaps of faith, and he's like, they have the best results. And I was like, I appreciate that. So I'm going to continue on with Gray Space for a little bit, maybe through like next Monday. Because I was like, hey, just let me know how I can assist with the transition, and I wrote Drew and Nicole, and I sent them a big thing and a message and told them what was going on, that I'm not gonna be the Zendesk developer user group leader anymore, and to also ask them how I can assist in that transition. So basically I'm putting out there the intention, right? I'm communicating to the necessary parties the intention around this. And yeah, after I did my last video, I totally cried. I freaked out for a little bit, and just allowed myself to feel kind of lost around it, and to feel that uncertainty and to feel that fear and to let it in, and to let it also move through me. What's helped me with this, honestly, to this being my resolve, what's helped me with my resolve around making these choices are two things. Two things. One of them primarily, one of them's a little funny and anecdotal, and yet I'm still curious about it. So let me tell you these two things. First thing is, I asked Oden last night, my oldest son, I was like, should I just be an author? Like, should I just write, And he was like, yeah, And the reason I explicitly asked Oden is because he's a bit of an oracle, honestly, in some ways. And I've known this about Oden since he was for sure 5. And I've just kind of asked him a couple things like throughout his life, and it's kind of interesting. I feel like he's tapped in some ways, whether he knows it or not. And so sometimes when I ask him things, I'll ask him to see like what I'm receiving. And like for an example, like when he was 5, we went camping, and it was a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. And he looks up and he's like, I think it's gonna storm. And I'm like, what? It was the worst storm I have ever camped through in my entire life. Yes, sir. Later that night, we sure did. It was a hell of a storm. And just other instances like that. Like I said, there's been a couple others. So anyway, that was anecdotal. The second one, though, the thing that really solidified my resolve for me is my youngest son, right? So Milo is an artist. He's a musician. He's a writer. He's an artist. And as I've been speaking in my journals here recently, the idea of moving from the IT guy to being a creative to being an artist, like these are things that have these mental images of myself have been occurring over the past few months here, right? And so last night I was really connecting with being an author and writing, because again, Milo he writes and he's shared some of his writings with me, and Angela and I both feel like he's really good at it, right? And then because I feel like I can really relate to Milo in the ways that he may view himself, and perhaps how he navigates life and the world and how things feel to him. There's a lot of similarities, I feel. And so through my connection to me being an artist and viewing my own challenges through that lens, right? And I view us all as artists, right? We are all artists of our life, and we all suffer in some degree in artists' suffering, right? You know, the things that artists suffer through in our own context. And so I was thinking about all of this last night, and just how my own view of myself, of how I viewed myself as an IT guy, what that felt like to me, my own kind of resistance to being visible in some regards, or being seen, the fear that I told the guys in Costa Rica about being seen. I translated that. I passed that along. You know, that was a huge resource in my relationship with my sons, because of my own way of being, you know, because of my own internal image, conscious or not. It was a resource that my kids had their whole life. And Milo will tell you he doesn't want to be seen, you know. And so just what solidified my resolve around this choice is embracing my own fear and my own uncertainty, and just setting my intention to move forward, to be seen and to be heard on a much more, like a larger scale, so that I can empower him, so that I can be an example, so that I can illustrate to him, you know, to bring that energy as a resource into my relationship with my children. It's more about the confidence and the self-love, the faith in themselves, you know, and the connection to themselves and the love of themselves, you know, because there was a lot of not loving myself, you know, and pieces of myself, for, like I said, since the beginning of this year was a turning point regarding all of that. And so pretty much my whole life, certainly their whole life up until now, those kind of negative resources were things I was bringing back to our relationship. And so what solidified that resolve for me was to consciously and intentionally choose to change that. Be like, I'm not allowing that to be a resource anymore. My children deserve better, you know. We all deserve better, honestly. And so that's my intention. And I don't have, when it comes to like being an example of faith, I don't have imaginings or images or visions or views of like what my path is supposed to look like, you know. That's why I still have faith 100% that it's all going to work out. I have a shitload of data around that, a lot. So in that regard, that's why I'm like, my housing situation, my financial stuff, like, while I don't enjoy that uncertainty and that instability. I have been through enough rodeos on both of those contexts that the fear is, that's not where my fear resides, you know. I've been able to like ground that pretty well. It's more about, am I in alignment with the divine design of my life? Am I choosing the right actions? You know, and so my fear comes from my own ideas of how I think things should be versus maybe what the actual plan of my life is, you know. And I know this is going to raise arguments. There's going to be people that say, well, you planned that, and, you know, it's the whole question of destiny and fate, you know, and free will. For me, it just comes down to like I was telling the guy from Gray Space, like it just is an internal compass kind of a thing. What feels aligned, what feels right, what I feel guided to do. And like I said, I believe we live in a participatory universe, and for myself, my own journey, I believe that I've had guidance on aligning myself and choosing what is right for the highest version of myself. And that can definitely inspire fear, and it can definitely create uncertain circumstances, but that's what it's all about, right? For me, it's about navigating that uncertainty, that kind of terrain, and just illustrating that. And so by illustrating that, I've been led to circumstances or experiences that are pretty, how do I want to say, unreasonable, like perhaps outside of what most reasonable people would choose to experience. We'll put it that way. And I do that because I've always been captivated by, Tony Robbins says, be unreasonable, and those that are unreasonable are the ones that change the world, right? The ones that believe that they can change the world do. Steve Jobs would say the same thing. He said the same thing, be unreasonable. And so this idea of these limits that we put on ourselves, these limits that I put on myself, the box that I created for myself, I'm always curious about those boundaries and traversing those and finding out how to overcome those, and whether or not those boundaries or limitations are in alignment with me or if they're made up. And I feel like we all do that. And so for some reason, it would be so much easier if it wasn't this way, but for some reason I feel led, like it's part of my path, I guess, to be a guide or an illustrator, an artist, to go ahead and do my life and to do my art, and allow it to be criticized and ridiculed and to be judged and to be seen, and to be experienced, because that's what we're all here to do, I feel like, and without shame or guilt or judgment, because it's all, I don't know, every time I look out at nature, I'm like, do you think that tree was like, shit, I didn't want to be planted here. I didn't want to grow this way. My leaves are ugly. Or like, I'm not facing the sun quite right to receive all the light that I need to receive. Like, I don't know. Like, these things that I feel like humans, because of our consciousness, we create and fabricate. But like when we get down to, just the principles of life, what is there to fear? What is there to fear? So, I don't know. These are the things that go on inside of my head. All right. Well, I have made some very intentional choices, some very conscious choices. I have put things in motion today. And we're just going to have to see where they go. I mean, you know what I mean? So, but the resolve was around being an example for my children and to consciously choose what resource I'm bringing back to our relationship, because I feel like that fear, that self-image that I had was disempowering. It was disempowering. And Milo deserves better. Oden deserves better. We all deserve better, honestly. Yeah. I feel compelled in a way, and I'm trying to figure out how to communicate it. Yesterday in my journal and when I was getting really choked up about being grateful for everybody that's contributed to my journey, I was thinking of an individual, and it was probably somebody that you would not anticipate me thinking of and being grateful for. And I'm trying to figure out how to communicate it. See if I can do it somewhat cryptically. The show Atypical has a lot for me to relate to. And the person I was thinking of yesterday, when I was getting choked up, is they are a mirror of me within a relationship within that show. I'll put it that way. It's probably about the best way I could put it. And there's just a lot of I think about my choices, not just in my context with Reese, but just in life. And I think about the impacts that I've had. I think about the people that have been involved. And I can be very deeply moved by that for a lot of reasons. And it just inspires a lot of gratitude in me, because there's a whole lot of people that have contributed, and not necessarily willingly or in ways that they would have probably preferred, you know what I mean? And I don't know what else to say. Other than I'm grateful. Because what else can I be? So, I just felt like that was important to be clear on. All right, I'm gonna keep this moving. I'm gonna keep moving this forward. All right. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for journeying with me. Thank you for our relationship. Thank you for the time and the space. All right, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.